Hi, welcome to my channel and thank you for being here. So today we're going to do something I haven't done before and hopefully you like it. This is going to be kind of a challenge for me. Hopefully I get better if you guys end up liking it. I'll continue the series, but I was thinking, I was talking to B2B Down and I was thinking about things that I love that I could combine with makeup. And something that I have always really loved are Disney movies. Now, I know that those Disney movie fairy tales are so fake and not how things actually happened. So, and I already know some of the, I've read some of the actual fairy tales that it was based off of. And so I thought, how about I do a series called Fairy Tales and Makeup and talk about a Disney movie fairy tale, but the actual fairy tale, not the Disney version. And so, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk about it and do my makeup. I took notes because I did reread this fairy tale that I'm going to cover today. And so hopefully I don't have to look at the notes too much, but this stuff makes me really nervous and I suck at talking. So, all right, let's get into the video. Okay, so I am covering The Little Mermaid. Now, The Little Mermaid was written by a Danish writer. His name is Christian Andersen. It was written, the first version of it was written in 1837. The Little Mermaid has no name in the story. Like they refer to her as her. And she does have 6 siblings. Kind of, you know, in the original, well, in the Disney version, she has lots of siblings, and that is true in the actual story. And these stories are a little bit dark, by the way, and they are also a little bit, this was religious, actually. I was really surprised at the end to find out the end of the story. Like, they are kind of religious based, so keep that in mind. 15, you were allowed to go to the surface of the ocean as a mermaid. You couldn't do it before you were 15. And, you know, everybody wants to, all the, you know, girls, all the siblings wanted to go to the surface because it's like the forbidden area. Everybody was interested to see what it looked like, and they all made a pact that they would tell each other what they saw when they would go up. Her, the mermaid that has no name, she was the youngest, so she had to wait the longest to get to go to, you know, the top of the ocean. Other things about it. The fish were friendly, you know, they called them like, they kind of seem to refer to other fish as kind of like similarities to birds, you know. And there was blue sand, and of course she was a royalty. That is something that they stayed true to in the movie. So each one of the siblings, all of them, they had their own gardens, and they were allowed to decorate their garden any way that they wanted. And most of them would have trinkets and things from shipwrecks and flowers. She only had a statue of a beautiful boy in her garden and red flowers. Now, I think the red flowers is why Disney gave her red hair. And she is described as very beautiful, by the way. Super beautiful, with the most beautiful voice in the ocean. That was just what she had going for her. She had an amazing voice and was super beautiful. They don't go into detail of what beautiful meant or what she looked like, you know, but they called her beautiful, and she had a really good voice. So she got to watch all of her siblings go up to the ocean and to the surface, I mean, and come back and tell, you know, everybody what they saw. And each sister had something different to talk about depending on what time of year they went up. So eventually, all of the siblings were old enough to go up to the surface besides the little mermaid, and that was hurtful for her because she was like left behind. Now, she was a little bit obsessed with what was up above, a little bit more than what her siblings were, and she was always asking her grandma about stories of, you know, of up above. She was just a little bit more obsessed with it than her other siblings. But her grandma always answered her questions, and it wasn't like they portrayed it in the movie like it was she shouldn't be asking these questions or be interested in up above or whatever. Mermaids don't cry, and just a random fact in this story I thought was interesting. And eventually Ariel was old enough to go to the top, and she went to the top, and she went alone. And when she got there, there was a ship, and on this ship was the prince, and she watched the prince and watched all of these people dance. And she low-key like had this weird obsession with this person she didn't even know. I don't understand. But yeah, so she watches them, and a storm comes in, and the ship ends up sinking. Now, because she is obsessed with this guy that she doesn't even know, she rescues him, and only him, and she takes him to shore, which she's not supposed to go to shore, but she does. And while she rescues him, by the way, she kisses him, and he's unconscious. So where's the consent to that? I thought that was interesting. This, you know, I mean, this was written in 1837, but yeah, the Little Mermaid kissed him when he was unconscious. And so she held on to the feelings that she had from that unwanted, unconsensual kiss. But she takes him on to the shore, and she disappears, but she watches from afar of people coming and rescuing him and things like that. She never tells her sisters what she saw or what had happened when she went to the surface for the first time, which, you know, they had made a pact that they would talk about it, but she didn't. And she actually got like depressed because she was low-key super obsessed with this prince that resembled the boy in her garden. And she let her garden die. She would go and spy on him where she dropped him off, and for a while she couldn't find him or see him. But yeah, so she let her garden die, and she was depressed, and she started asking her grandma about becoming a human and how you become a human. And I'll tell you, mermaids live for about 300 years, and when they die, they just turn into sea foam. They have no soul at all, and that's something that humans have, are souls apparently, but mermaids do not have them. And to become a human, you have to make a person, a man, fall in love with you and marry you. And if he doesn't marry you and fall in love with you, and he marries someone else, you will die. So the way that a mermaid gets a soul and remains human is to have a human man love you, and the marriage somehow creates or signifies a way to gain a soul. Yeah, kind of weird. So, you know, the Little Mermaid, the Little Mermaid, she really wants to be human. She doesn't really, it's not so much, I mean, she grew fascinated with human life as she continued to spy on this guy. But generally, her first want or desire to be human wasn't for her obsession with human things like it showed in the Disney movie. It was obsession over this guy. Big time. And I mean, like I said, she did grow to love or be curious about human life as she spied on him, but that wasn't her main intentions. So her obsession was very large at this point, and she wanted to be human. So she went to the witch, and she went, to this creepy place, to this witch, and to get to the witch, you had to like swim through these papules, is what it described it in the book, or in the fairy tale. I don't know exactly what they meant by that, but they described them looking like tentacles and grabbing you and trapping you. And on the way there, she was seeing, all these men and sailors and stuff dead and trapped in these papules. I think I'm saying that right. I'm sorry. So yeah, that was like her cue not to go, but she went anyways because she was desperate to become human. All right, so she gets to the witch, and the witch's house is made of bones. But they didn't describe the witch being like Ursula is, but she was eating a toad and she was creepy. Yeah. The witch knew exactly what Ariel was there for, and the witch was like, this is gonna bring you great misery, so I'm excited to give you what you want because it's gonna bring you misery, and that brings me joy, basically. And so the witch makes this potion, and while she's making the potion, like, it's scary and creepy and kind of like they portray it in the actual Disney movie, but even just a little bit more dark and creepy. All right, so she's making the potion and everything like that. And the witch says the price for this potion is her voice because she has the most beautiful voice. And the Little Mermaid's like, okay, but if I don't have a voice, how am I going to get him to love me? And she's like, with your grace and your beauty. And the witch promised her that she would walk on land with amazing grace. Like, she would have a beautiful gait. And, the Little Mermaid's a little bit nervous, but she wants this, and the price of getting legs also was that turning into human was going to hurt really freaking bad. The witch said, when you turn into a human, it's going to be like knives, like getting cut in half. It's going to be extremely painful. And the Little Mermaid's like, okay, and then the witch also said, every step you take, it'll feel like stepping on blades. It's going to hurt every step forever. Every step you take, it's not going to feel good. And again, the Little Mermaid's like, okay, So she ends up agreeing to this deal, and the witch cuts out her tongue. And then they refer to her as dumb because now she cannot speak. And I'm assuming like back, in 18 whatever, not being able to speak made you, like, they used the word dumb, but now she is dumb and can't speak. She does not say goodbye to her family, by the way. She doesn't say goodbye. She just goes to the land, And by the way, the witch was like, if the papules or whatever tried to capture you, just pour a drop of this potion on them. It'll stop them. But the Little Mermaid didn't have to do that, because just the sight of this red potion that was clearly evil, it was enough to not want to capture the Little Mermaid. Which tells you something as well, doesn't it? I mean, okay, but she's gonna make this prince that doesn't know her love her. Okay, so she goes to land, and the prince finds her, and he is taken aback by her beauty, and she can't talk, and he takes her to her palace, or she takes her to his palace, and that night she danced, and everybody was just taken aback because, like the witch had said, she was going to be able to dance and have a beautiful gait and, everything. So her beauty and her dancing made everybody really like her. And the prince was kind of a dick. He liked her a lot, it seemed like. They went everywhere together and everything, but she was kind of like his pet, and he would call her like a little child, and she slept on a satin cushion, I think. She slept on a cushion outside of his room, and they kissed. It says that they kissed, but it doesn't go into like detail, like this is a fairy tale for children. It doesn't talk about like if they're, doing it or not. But they have a relationship, and he calls her a little child and says he loves her like a little child, but he does remember this beautiful creature, this beautiful human that rescued him that night, that he almost drowned, and he said that that's who he loved. And of course, the Little Mermaid couldn't tell him that it was her because she couldn't talk. I guess writing wasn't a thing. So yeah, and every step and every movement that she made was painful, and she didn't care. It didn't bother her. And then at one point it did say that her feet would bleed. So I thought that was interesting too, which is kind of what the evil witch kind of told her too, was that her feet would bleed and whatnot. The prince was told by his dad that he had to meet this, princess from somewhere else to marry. And of course, like, he told Little Mermaid, like, oh, I don't really want to marry her. I'm not interested. I'm just going to do what I'm supposed to do. And his intentions weren't to get married to her. So the Little Mermaid felt confident. But she shouldn't have felt confident, because apparently this princess was so beautiful. Very, 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 very beautiful. And he said that she was the one that had saved him. So he decides that he's going to marry this woman. Now, in the deal, I forgot to tell you that when he marries someone else that's not her, she will die and turn into foam, and that she could never be a mermaid again. That's what the witch told her. And so him getting married to this other person will cause her death. And, the Little Mermaid is like now concerned because he's falling for this princess and is going to marry this princess. Oh, and I forgot to mention that her sisters would come and see her, and they couldn't talk, but they would come and see her. And her grandma and dad would too, but they didn't get as close, like, to shore as the siblings did. So she still has contact with her sisters and sees her grandma and stuff. And her grandma's really sad, apparently, that Little Mermaid is now, human. But the prince was a dick, and the Little Mermaid was kind of like ridiculous too, to want some guy that doesn't even know her and everything. And then the prince, like, how he's been, it doesn't tell you how much time has passed, but from my understanding is it's been a while. And like, he doesn't marry her or let her sleep in his room, or like, yeah, I just thought it was kind of rude and weird. And he would kiss her, and he did love her. So it's just, the prince was kind of a condescending asshole that took advantage of the Little Mermaid. And the Little Mermaid, she did everything that she could to get him to love her, So this poor Little Mermaid, she had to, like, she was the prince's best friend now. She's friend zoned, even though friend zoned is not really a thing, but you know what I mean? Like, he's getting married, and so he wants her to, like, she ends up holding his new girlfriend's veil, like fiance's veil, when she walks down the aisle. And the Little Mermaid knows, like, she's gonna die. She's gonna turn into sea foam. She didn't even get her 300 years, no soul, no love. And she's sad. But she does it. Seems like an all-around good person. I mean, I don't know if I could hold the veil of, the person marrying the guy I want to marry. But, she does, and she dances the night away because she knows as soon as the first sun ray hits, she's going to turn into sea foam. And so she just dances and has a good time all night, because I guess, what are you going to do on your last day, right? You're going to dance and have a good time with everybody else? I don't know. So that's what she does. And her sisters show up, and they're sad, and they know what's happening. They have no hair. They have chopped all their hair off, and they told her, we have traded our hair to the witch for this knife. This knife, if you use it to kill the prince, when the blood falls and hits your feet, you will turn back into a mermaid, and you will get to live, the rest of your life as a mermaid. And we can just pretend this didn't happen, basically. And so she takes the knife and she goes into the room where the prince is, and she's looking at him and looking at the knife, and she throws it. She throws the knife in the water, and it, like, fizzles away in some weird fairy tale way. And the sun is starting to come up, so she jumps into the water and turns into, or what she thought she was going to, was to turn into sea foam, but instead she turned into this, spirit, this invisible spirit. And they called them the Daughters of the Air. And they told her that she has to go around doing good deeds, nobody can see her, with them for 300 years. And if she did this for 300 years, she would gain a soul and go to the high heavens, pretty much. And she's getting this opportunity to go up and be God's daughter, because she wasn't a bad person. But so this is basically, in my eyes, purgatory. Like, she's in purgatory for 300 years. And also, you have to bring 3 years of good joy and good deeds to people. But also, she goes into, sound like she would go into children's rooms. And if these children were bringing their parents joy and happiness, and they were good little children, then it would take 1 year off of her 300-year sentence. But if the children were naughty and displeasing their parents, she would cry. And for every tear shed would add a day to her 300-year sentence to get to the heavens. Whew. Is that heavy? Like, I didn't expect, like, the ending to be like that. Like, I read this story a long time ago, but I reread it and refreshed, my memory yesterday. But can you believe that? Like, it definitely goes with the whole, like, fairy tale for children and trying to manipulate and get children to behave. As a child, when you hear that, you're going to be like, if I'm naughty, then the Little Mermaid is gonna spend more time in purgatory. Or they didn't call it purgatory, but I don't know, that's what I would call it. But her sentence is gonna increase, so I need to behave and make my parents really happy. I don't know. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was interesting that it didn't come off religious at first, and then it very, very obviously at the end was obvious that it was, a religious fairy tale and aspect. And a lot of the fairy tales are religious, and stories of, trying to get people to behave or act a certain way. But anyways, I thought that was super interesting. What did you think? I do get where Ursula, being an octopus came from. I get the singing. The dad didn't play a big role at all. He existed, but he didn't play a role, like a big one, like you saw him. Oh, I forgot one really big part of this. I'm so sorry. But once the Little Mermaid, or a mermaid, becomes of age, they attach oysters to their tails, which is painful, to represent status. And the pain is, like, the grandma's like, yeah, the pain's fine. Like, you have to experience it. So when you become of age to be able to go up to the top, they attach 8 oysters onto the tail. And it didn't specify if they did that with, like, non-royalty mermaids or anything like that, but I don't think that they did, because it kind of said it was to represent status. Like, it's a status symbol. It's like wearing pearls, you got oysters on your tail. But that's painful. So, I mean, of course, when the witch says, hey, you're going to be in pain every time you walk. Like, well, yeah, I have oysters attached to my tail right now anyways, so is it really going to be any different? I don't know. I thought it was interesting. Tell me what you think. And, but there's, like, so many aspects of that story that's so outdated, I mean, the Little Mermaid kissed this unconscious dude. Like, no. You always have to get consent, and to teach a child that you don't have to ask permission, and to kiss a person who is passed out and partially dying is acceptable. Yeah, no. And then the obsession with somebody you don't know. Definitely interesting. So I'm kind of biased. Like, when I was a kid, Little Mermaid was one of my favorite Disney movies. It's not on my top list now, I don't think, but I love it. I loved it so much. So I get what aspects of that story Disney took to create it, and think that they did a pretty good job. Like, you know, Sebastian keeps coming up to help her and trying to help get this prince to fall in love with her because it was important. These lashes with this look, but I'm just going for it. I'm gonna fly. Let me know if I did an okay job going over it. I'm not good at talking. I'm not good at summarizing. So this is like really out of my comfort zone, but it was something that I thought of and got really excited to do. So I wanted to do it. And yeah, but let me know what I can do to improve. Let me know if you are interested in me doing another fairy tale. I probably will do this, if you guys like it, once every 2 weeks or something like that. And also, if you did enjoy it, let me know which fairy tale you think I should do next. So yeah, this was a lot of fun for me. I was like super excited to do this, and I couldn't find anybody that did fairy tales in makeup. There's a lot of like haunted stories in makeup and crime and makeup and murder and makeup, but I couldn't find anything about people going over fairy tales. And I don't know about you, but I grew up with fairy tales. I grew up with Disney. Like, those things are so nostalgic to me, and I think they're nostalgia to everybody because everybody is buying Disney themed things. So I thought it'd be fun to go over the true one. Anyways, I'm just mumbling at this point and rambling. Thank you for joining me on this fairy tale journey, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.